Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dave Cutrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. It is the Canucks Conversation 2026 NHL trade deadline preview show. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to actually talk about a Canucks game. When's the last time we were like, okay, we're going to spend more than 3 minutes talking about the game that the Canucks just played? We're going to do that. We're going to play Family Feud. We're going to have Irfaan Gaffar join us to help us preview tomorrow's trade deadline. Some more action today on top of what we already talked about yesterday, and some updates on some of the stuff we talked about yesterday as well. And then, of course, we will close it out with anyone else. It's going to be a good day. The sun's shining. How you feeling, Harm?
Feeling great. Excited for hopefully some more activity ahead of the deadline, certainly around the league, but specifically, I can imagine a lot of Canucks fans are anxious to see their team make moves. And even the game last night, you're bang on. I don't think we've spent any time talking about the game since the Olympic break ended, and it's mostly because there's been not much interesting to talk about. But last night was different, so I'm excited to dive into it.
Different for a lot of reasons. And folks, if you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show to participate in the conversation, why not hit us with a super chat? Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by spreading breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Saltaire Brew talking about the trade. There's some trade conversation going on because the Canucks did make a trade. I was going to say it for anyone else, but I might as well get to it off top. Jet Woo, friend of the show, Canucks Conversation. He's been on like 5 times. We will miss him. Traded to the San Jose Sharks for, what's this guy's name? Jack Thompson, defenseman. Okay, not to oversell Jack Thompson when I just said, what's this guy's name? Quick look at his Hockey DB page. Pretty good first and second season in the AHL. He's just struggled to build off of those in the last couple seasons. He's played NHL games, and that's what I look at it for the Canucks is, look, if you've got Victor Mancini, and he didn't play great last night, we're going to talk about him. But if you've got Victor Mancini and you just called up, why am I blanking on this guy's name too? The one they just called up, the defenseman that they traded for. What's his name? 26-year-old.
What? Sorry, what?
The defenseman they called him. I forgot his name. Cole Clayton. There it is. Cole Clayton. Okay. Cole Clayton. What I'm saying is if you're going to call Cole Clayton up and it's not Jet Woo that gets the recall, I understand why Jet Woo would want to say like, okay, we've got to move on here. Like if you're Jet Woo, you're looking for an opportunity to play somewhere. To be fair, like he's plateaued a little bit in the AHL, but he's going to get a chance hopefully with the San Jose Sharks. So this seems like a win-win.
Oh, he's not going to get a chance there.
He might.
He's probably not.
Okay, well he might if they ever have to call up their own Cole Clayton. It might be Jet Woo instead. That's my point.
Perhaps. I think it's less about that and more from the Canucks standpoint of, hey, Thompson played 31 NHL games for the Sharks last season, and it's more because he's got NHL experience, you feel a little bit more comfortable if you have to throw him into the lineup to play some minutes in case of further injuries, or if Victor Mancini is really struggling. And in the case of Thompson as well, he's a little bit younger. He's 23 years old. So not to say that he's necessarily got a lot of upside, but I look at him as a better player than Jet Woo and a more credible NHL option.
Oh, for sure. And that's why the Canucks made this trade. I was just saying there's no loser in this trade. Like, I think everybody's happy with what they ended up with, right? The Canucks are going to need Thompson to play games down the stretch. Like we were saying, if they're going to need to play him down the stretch. Again, they just traded Tyler Myers. There's going to be some spots available on the right side of the blue line. And Victor Mancini, also a friend of the show, we're rooting for him. We hope he plays better than he did last night, but a couple more of those games and you're not going to be in the NHL very long. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. He had a really, really rough night. So we're going to talk about him and much more. And maybe we'll talk more about the Jack Thompson acquisition. But I want to talk about last night's game, Harm. Canucks lost, but it was a perfect tank loss. They put up a great fight against the Hurricanes. It was a disastrous start, to be fair. They finished the first strong with 42 goals with 40 seconds apart from each other. Marco Rossi, Elias Pettersson, 2 points each. Philip Hronek puts up 3 points. Brock Besser, 7 hits? What? Brock Besser finishes the night with 7 hits. Pettersson's making things happen, playing with some zip. Nils Höglander looked good. We haven't seen him look that good in this season. Scores his first goal of the season. Linus Karlsson, a guy we were recently talking about, great thing they extended him. He's been absolutely invisible for the past month. Linus Karlsson made some really, really sharp plays, some under the radar strong plays. I think it was the second goal where he's the one that's transporting the puck up the ice and does a little give and go, goes and wins a puck battle along the wall and keeps the play alive. He gets an assist on that as well. But some really, really strong work from Linus Karlsson. You go up and down the lineup. Strong game from lots of players. I want to talk about Kevin Lankin. Do you have anybody else that you really want to zone in on as a positive?
Yeah, I think for me, with all the chat around him lately, to see Elias Pettersson put together an effort like that is encouraging. You needed that, right? 2 points, 2 shots on goal. And specifically as well, just to see Pettersson and Höglander connecting on that goal in the third period. And I also have been thinking about Pettersson and Höglander playing together, not just from shaking things up from a pure hockey perspective, but also just think about mentally for him how much his struggles the last couple of years must be weighing on him, how difficult it must be to go through. He's clearly feeling the heat, clearly feeling the pressure. When you go out and you get to play with Nils Höglander, who's one of your best friends on the team, arguably your closest one on the team, it's just fun. It's an opportunity to just go out there, not think too much, and to the best of your ability, just bring some joy back into your game. And I think that's part of what's been missing for Pettersson lately, is it just sort of feels like there's a little bit of dark cloud around him. Certainly in that media scrum, it felt a little bit joyless. And to finally see him with Höglander, I think you're hoping that just psychologically it can be a bit of mentally clean slate and just for him to have fun again. And again, we don't have to rehash this too many times, but it was long overdue for the coaching staff to try Höglander on PD's wing. And then this isn't a hindsight take, right? When Höglander first had that lower body injury, we were discussing his return to the lineup. We were saying, hey, as soon as he's gotten a few games in the bottom 6 to get his feet under him, I want to see him get an opportunity with Elias Pettersson, and it took too long. We saw too many games of Evander Kane on that Pettersson line. And now that they finally have clicked, at least in this one game, I just hope they get an extended long leash together, because both of those guys need that jolt. Both of those guys need to just have fun again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to talk about Kevin Lankin. It's not a positive. Kevin Lankin gets the mercy pull. 4 goals on 22 shots. His last 7 starts, Harm, 0-6 with the pull as well. 30 goals against in 7 starts, 5.42 goals against average, and an 803 save percentage. Kevin Lankin is going through it right now. It is not good. It's been a continuation of what it was before the Olympic break for Lankin.
Yeah, this year's just a write-off for him. It's that simple. I think in the beginning, this is where goaltending is tricky, right? Where first the defense leaves you out to dry a little bit, and then earlier in the season I'm talking about, and then so that even though a lot of those goals may not be your fault, it starts to chip away at your confidence. And then when you mix in a couple softies here or there, then it starts to snowball out of control. And now it seems as if there are a greater share of goals getting past him that he should have stopped, or at least had a realistic chance on. Certainly one of the goals in the second period, he just overcommitted to the blocker side and just kind of lost his net there a little bit. He's really going through it, and I expect Nikita Tolopilo is going to have to pick up a greater share of starts down the stretch.
Which I've been calling for. Tolopilo looked good as well. He's going to have a higher save percentage than Askarov. Okay, anything else on last night's game before we start the trade deadline preview and get to... Oh, I had one last thing. I wanted to get this in. This is courtesy of our pal Ian McIntyre over at Sportsnet. He caught up with Tom Willander after the game. Jacob, can you pull this up, please? Tom Willander speaking after the game. I think these quotes are very telling about a few things. I'm curious what conclusions people draw from them, but I think it shows really that Tom Willander, as much as we talk about, Braden Coots, maybe the next captain. Well, hey, hold on to that. Philip Roenick maybe the next captain. This is some real leadership stuff from Tom Willander. And again, we remember about a month ago, it was Willander that came out after what we thought was a pretty decent game. And he said, no, nothing was good. And he was very, very honest with his thoughts on the game. This was last night, courtesy of Ian McIntyre, Tom Willander saying, it feels a whole lot better when the guys are trying like that. You know, some of these teams are very good and they're tough and you're not going to win all of them, but you always have to compete. I don't feel like it's just about playing well. I feel like you compete. You're just going to get a lot better. I feel like if you compete, you're just going to get a lot better. Even practices are better. Next one, 100% agree. I think that's something, the fight, that you need more of. You can't always be at your best, but you can always work hard. I feel like you need to compete and show up even on the days you're not, when not everything is clicking. I feel like that's going to be so important later on when you want to win those big games. Jacob, if you can go back to the first part of that, the first quote, that's what stood out to me. It feels a whole lot better when the guys are trying like that. What have we said? What have we said all year long? When the Canucks are outmatched, but they at least put in a strong effort, we're the first ones to come on here and say, like, yeah, that wasn't too bad, actually. Like, they're trying and you admire that. But lately, it's been a lot of just mailing it in, and we're just sitting here. Again, it goes back to the conversation about the vets. It's like, what are you keeping these vets around for? They're not setting any sort of standard. Tom Willander's setting the standard, it feels like, when he's coming out and saying stuff like this. And again, it feels a whole lot better when the guys are trying. A rookie defenseman is saying that about your team. What kind of culture is that? Now, that being said, my main point is more of this is great. That game last night was great, and it was in response. The second quote that Willander had was in response to being asked about what Patrick Allvin had to say yesterday, and what he said was he would like to see some more fight out of this group. Why am I bringing all this up, Harm? Because it really reminds me. We made the comparison to this team recently as well. It really reminds me of the pre-Celebrini San Jose Sharks. If you recall, the Canucks stomped the pre-Celebrini Sharks 10-1. Remember that kid with the sign?
Yeah.
My Sharks game. Kid's terrified, never been to a hockey game since. That game, after that game, I believe it was after that game. I think that game was also in a string of bad games for that team. So it might, maybe the timeline's a little fuzzy, but around that time, my point. GM Mike Greer went down to the locker room and had a talk with his team and just said, like, hey, I know things aren't great right now, but like, you guys are still professionals and you still have to try. Like, you still have to put in the effort. And we don't know if Allvin said that specifically to his team, but he definitely said that in the media yesterday when he said, I'd like to see more fight out of them down the stretch. Besser, like I said, throws 7 hits. Pettersson flying around the ice out there. Filip Hronek, 3 points. And nobody's really questioning Filip Hronek's work ethic or give a bleep meter in this season. But my point being is that it wasn't just a rookie defenseman coming out and talking. That was on the heels of like all of those vets and guys whose work ethics we've questioned in this season. Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson. It was those guys kind of setting the standard and driving the bus. This is the kind of, that's why you say perfect tank win, perfect tank, perfect rebuilding win from a process standpoint.
Yeah, the challenge now is you did it once. Now you got to repeat it and build on it, right? It's a lot of times when, whether it's a coach or a GM or a teammate, you play the blasting, or not blasting, but criticizing somebody or the team in public card. There'll be a lot of spotlight and attention for the response the next game, and then you'll maybe get the response the next game, but then it fizzles out over time. And a week later, 2 weeks later, it just didn't really make an impact. I think about Jake DeBrusk, right? When Jake DeBrusk was healthy scratched, he was clearly pissed off in the moment. He was accountable for it. He came back into the lineup, and immediately the first couple of games, to see how engaged he was on the forecheck, how impactful he was away from the puck, just there was a level of hardness and edge to his game that he didn't previously have. And you're like, okay, yeah, that seems like it was a wake-up call. But after that, what really happened? DeBrusk has sort of gone back to being mostly invisible, mostly quiet. And so that's the challenge now, is you have to build on it. It has to be a consistency to it. The other thing I'll say, when it relates to Willander and some of these young guys, they're already pretty likable like the vibe around these guys is so much better than it is around, I think, the remaining vets. Where even to see some of the social content that the Canucks posted coming out of the Dice Nice, where I think Willander and Bouillon were going at each other, just like friendly roasts and chirps.
While
Some of
playing
the
shell.
yeah, while playing Chell, and then even earlier in the season, Ogren coming in and bombing. Whose scrum was it again? With the stick,
DPD.
DPD scrum. It's just like they're having fun. They clearly want to be here, and they're bringing good vibes to the table, and you can never question their effort. That's what fans, regardless of wins and losses, will be able to root for. They'll tolerate finishing 32nd in the league so long as they see that effort, so long as they see that positive attitude, so long as they see, all right, there's some light at the end of the tunnel and there's some progress for these young players. That's like, they're already so much more likable than a lot of the vets that haven't really been able to consistently set that standard. And so we'll see what happens from this point onward in terms of further trades ahead of the deadline and even going into the offseason.
And this is why we talk about just like, what are you keeping these vets for? What are you keeping these vets for? They're not setting any sort of standard. None of them have won anything in their lives. Let's go. Like, get some of these guys out of here. Get some of these guys out of here. With that in mind, let's start our official 2026 trade deadline preview. Joining us is Irfaan Gaffar, courtesy of our friends at Tim Hortons. Right now is Roll Up the Rim season. Roll-up season is officially back. Play on the cup while supplies last, but don't forget to also play on the Tim's app, which means more chances to win just for doing what you're already doing, getting Tim's. Roll-up season is only around until March 22nd, so don't wait until it's over to realize that you forgot to play. For more info, check out timhortons.ca/rollup. Roll up to win only at Tim's. All right. Irfaan Gaffar joins us now. Irf, you're going to be doing the insider edition of Daily Faceoff Rundown in a couple hours. You guys going live? Like, what's the deal there? What's the plan?
Yeah, 4 to 5. We will be going live. I will be here in studio, and Dave will be somewhere, either in the studio in Toronto or at home. But yeah, we'll be doing it live. It should be fun. I mean, look, lots to get into. Not only, doing Canucks here on Canucks Convo, but there is a ton of stuff going out league-wide. We just saw that Warren Foegele was moved from the Los Angeles Kings to the Ottawa Senators for a second-round pick. Foegele has 1 year remaining at $3.5 million. Look at that shot that Dave or Jacob made of us. So, you know what? I remember that photo shoot, too. Because you guys were like, oh, yeah, like it's on your phone. It's a real insider shot. I'm like, yeah, I'm just scrolling Bet365. It's great.
Hey, speaking of Dave, Pagnotta and centers being moved.
Okay.
Dave tweets out, the Canucks have some trade options regarding veteran Teddy Blueger. If their price isn't met, though, I'm told they will explore signing him to an extension. I called this, Irf. I called this. I said it. Unfortunately, I might be right. What's going on with Teddy Blueger? Do you think the Canucks are going to be able to trade him? Do you think the Canucks are actually going to be able to trade him?
I think it would be an insane idea to extend him at this point. I do. I think that you need to go out and get whatever you can for these players, especially the unrestricted free agents, depending UFAs, because you can just bring them back in the summer if you really like them. They might not. To me, it seems that their value of the player and what they want for certain players is very high, and teams are not willing to pay that for the Canuck players. Let's just put it that way. There has been interest around Teddy Blueger. There's been interest around Drew O'Connor. There's been some interest around Connor Garland. And then beyond that, it's been pretty quiet surrounding the Vancouver Canucks players. I think that they should go and try and move anybody by any means necessary. Now, whether they don't like what they're getting in return, that's going to remain to be seen here in the next hours leading up to the deadline. And I'm not sure. I mean, I can definitely see a situation where if the Canucks don't like what they get for this player, they look at their center depth. You don't know what you're going to get from Elias Pettersson next year. Philip Hedl is still a question mark. Marco Rossi, you hope, turns into that 60-point guy that you saw in Minnesota. Then you still need someone to play. You're still going to need a guy like Teddy Blueger. And I get it. Why don't you just bring him back in the summer and whatever and do all that? Well, if you're the Canucks and you know you can probably get him on the low and don't give him an option to go anywhere else, that's one thing, right? And then if in the summer Teddy Blueger's like, yeah, okay, trade me and then I'll come back. Well, what if a team offers you $1 million more and you really wanted the player? So I think that there's a little bit of that going into it as well. But look, I agree. I put it out there that said that they really like the player. They really do. And everyone's all over it saying that this would be crazy. I tend to agree with that. Like, trade the guy. Get anything you can back for these players and start your rebuild. Just do it. Part ways with all of these guys. If you really want to bring them back, you can do it in the summer. But I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's wild.
Do you think there's any chance that part of this is posturing, right? We know that teams are strategic sometimes with their leaks, and it's all about leverage in this situation where I'm sure the Canucks have set a certain price that they want teams to meet. Teams aren't willing to meet it yet, and those potential buying teams may be thinking, well, we'll just wait the Canucks out because they have to move Teddy Blueger ahead of the deadline. And could a leak like this be the Canucks trying to manage the leverage and show teams that, hey, if you don't step up, maybe we'll just re-sign the player? Or do you think they're actually serious about exploring an extension?
I don't think this came from the Canucks. I think that this came from the other side, and this is definitely the case of them being like, okay, if we don't get what we want, we're going to extend your client.
That's concerning.
Right? Like, I'm very positive that this didn't come from the Canucks. In fact, I'm almost 100% certain. But, I mean, crazier things have happened. We've seen stuff go down on deadline day and days leading up to it. I agree with you, man. Like, there's a lot of things that we look at and we say this should be done and that should be done and that should be done. And they're going to do things their own way. But when you're in a situation that you're in, and you're at we talked about this earlier in the week, you're at the free throw line, man. You just got to make these free throws. Just be able to get rid of these guys that are pending UFAs. David Kampf, you should be able to get something for the guy. Teddy Blueger, you for sure can get something for him. Evander Kane has been very quiet around him. I wonder if it even heats up at all at any point before the NHL trade deadline tomorrow at noon. But yeah, I agree. You have to try and get anything you can for these players.
Okay, we got a few things here. If I want to ask you about Evander Kane, but before that, 2 super chats here. One from Alfred 279. He said, "Woohoo!" Regarding Jet Woo, JT party, Jack Thompson hype in the chat. But this one from Owen Jay-Z, also 279 donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. He said, do they know they can find another 4C in free agency? Guys, I know we haven't really gotten into the dealings of the day just yet, but you know what I would be doing if I were an NHL GM right now? I'd be looking and go, whoa, I should be signing every bottom 6 center I can who's over 6'2" in free agency, because apparently these guys are getting a lot of traction. Harm always laughs at me for targeting size, but clearly that's what playoff teams are after. Like, you look at what's been on the move lately. Like, go for those big centers, those big bottom 6 centers. There's more than just Teddy Blueger out there. You're gonna have the ability to overpay for one of these guys, and then you retain on them at the deadline. It's just yeah. Anyways, moving away from Blueger, Evander Kane, I want to ask you about Evander Kane, because the deadline passed. We did see one guy go on waivers and have his contract terminated. Evander Kane is not one of those guys. So we kind of talked about this yesterday. Harm and I did, that if they can't find a suitor for Kane, he's theoretically in a contract year where he's about to turn 35 years old. He's going to want to play on a playoff team and show, hey, I can still make things happen at the NHL level in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And he's not going to get that opportunity if he stays in Vancouver. That deadline's passed. They're not going to do that. So it's either at this point, it's either they trade him or he finishes out the season as a Canuck. This would seem like one where the player would also probably want to be dealt. So I know there's not much chatter, but like, for the Canucks not to go down the route of contract termination with Kane, right, where both sides agree that this is what we want to do, does that not kind of suggest that they must feel pretty confident? And when I say they, I mean both sides feel pretty confident that a trade is going to happen before the deadline?
I mean, from the player's point of view, I'm probably not walking away from that kind of money, right? You look at other guys that have gone and done the contract termination thing. Some of them have, left a lot of money on the table. I don't think that Evander wanted to do that. I think that you're right. he does want to play for a playoff team here at some point. It's been quiet, man. It really has around this player. I'm a little bit surprised that nobody has really come across and put something out there. Now, maybe you look at the LA Kings that just traded Fogle. They've got $3.5 million in cap space now. They might do the whole circle back thing, my favorite word. In the next 2 days will be circle back because it's circle back season. But beyond that, I don't know who is going to give up what the Canucks want for this player. Like, do the Canucks want a third for Evander Kane? Do they want a fourth or fifth or a sixth? Like, at some point, you're going to have to get rid of this player and if you're willing to eat salary on it too, and everybody knows that, there should be a lineup of teams that are saying, here, take a late round pick. We'll take Evander for half of his salary right now. But it's just been very quiet.
Yeah.
Among the veterans that have term left, and I'm going to include Pettersson, Besser, DeBrusk, Garland, O'Connor, and yeah, like let's say those forwards. Among those guys, who are the one or two names that you're most closely watching in terms of maybe realistically moving ahead of the deadline, and what do you expect the potential return for those players to look like, or just the level of interest that there is right now?
I think the big ones with term. Well, I mean, you throw Drew O'Connor in there. His name's definitely been out there. I think there's teams that have called and have had interest on him. Obviously, Teddy Blueger doesn't have the term, but Teddy Blueger's another one. I would say the guys with term that are garnering the most interest is Connor Garland. Nothing was close with the New York Islanders, by the way. They talked, but nothing was close. And I don't even think it was a talk as opposed to, was it exchanging of offers or what have you. It didn't go beyond whatever conversation that was had. So there was nothing close there with the Islanders. I do believe the Boston Bruins, that one makes sense. He's from Massachusetts. That one just makes sense. Beyond that, I think there are a couple more teams that, are in on that. But from another team's point of view, you're going to acquire a guy that's now about to go into a 6-year extension at $6 million a season. A team is probably going to want to move some salary out. And the Canucks are probably going to have to eat some salary, not of Connor Garland's, eat some salary coming back, whether that means it's a bad contract or someone with term on the other side of it. I don't think it's a bad thing for the Vancouver Canucks to take on a player that has term. At all. I really don't. If you're being able to get rid of a player or whatever it takes just to free up this and really get into a rebuild situation, by all means, please do it. I think that they're thinking about it. I think that those are definitely conversations that are being had at Rogers Arena about, looking at players with, or being an asset that, has really no value right now. And it is just a ticket. So I think that there's something that they're definitely looking into. But after Connor Garland, did you mention Brock? Yeah. Brock's an interesting one. I saw the Islanders thing. I don't think he's going to the Islanders. I don't really know if the Islanders make a lot of sense for Brock Besser, but it would be, I think that there is going to be a team that calls. I think there's going to be a little bit of interest. And if the Canucks like what they're offering, or if they talk about an offer, they'll take it to Brock, but I'm not entirely sure he's going to waive.
Okay. For Brock, I just wanted to quickly follow up on that. Despite them signing him to an extension, it's always felt like this management group has been a little bit lukewarm on him, where even after he scored the 40-goal season in 23-24, he was extension eligible, and their attitude was almost go out and do it again before we re-sign you. And they weren't necessarily wrong to want Brock to prove he could do it again, because he hasn't been able to do it again. But even ahead of the deadline, they didn't make it a huge priority to get the extension done. He was a guy they essentially circled back on after the market opened on July 1st and after they struck out on some other targets. So with that in mind, when you look at Brock's situation and the contract he's on, do you think the Canucks are at a point where they are only moving Besser or presenting him with an offer if there's something significant coming back? Or do you think they're at the point where it's just, hey, if we can cleanly get off the contract, even if we're not getting much back, like we're at that point where it's more about just offloading the contract and getting off of a big ticket deal that may not age very well?
What significant would you give back as an NHL GM if you were acquiring Brock Besser? Like that's a question, right? Exactly.
Offer anything
exactly.
significant. So that's why that's why I'm interested. Like, because if the Canucks want something significant, they're probably not going to get it. And so Brock will probably stay. But if their motivation is just, hey, all we want to do is get off the contract so we don't hold on to this depreciating asset, well, then that might be a more realistic, more doable thing to do. Maybe not ahead of the deadline, but at least before next season.
No, I agree. And I also look at it from a point of if they're really going to tear that thing down and do this rebuild, you want to get off these big ticket guys. You want to get off guys that, have a lot of money for a really long time. Brock's going to be, in his mid to late 30s by the time this contract expires, right? And, his foot speed isn't there right now. It's only going to deteriorate with age. That's just normal. It's what happens. I wonder if anyone really calls with an offer that they like. Whether that, or if they're going to look at it to your point and just say, can we get off this? And then it's going to be solely up to Brock. We saw Colton Parayko say no. It's not out of the realm of possibility of guys saying no to go to places. So if you look at it from Brock's point of view, I mean, he decided to stay here, took less money to stay here, wanted to be a Vancouver Canuck. And I see someone in the chat saying they signed Brock to keep Quinn happy or keep Quinn. Yeah, you're right. They did a lot of stuff last year to try and keep Quinn Hughes happy. But you know what they're going to have to do this summer? If they win the draft lottery, they're going to have to do whatever it takes to insulate Gavin McKenna or whoever they get with good veterans and good hockey players, because the NHL is a tough league. And not only do you have Gavin McKenna there at a young age, you've also got Zeev Bium, you've got Tom Willander, you've got a lot of these young guys who you're going to want to grow together. Those are the players that you're going to need to surround them with good veterans. I do think that Brock is a good veteran of the National Hockey League. I think he's a really good dude. I think he's a good person in that room. But beyond that, I look up and down that roster, and who really do you look at and say, okay, that player is really in our future when we really think about it?
I want to revisit this idea of taking back money. Do we know if the Canucks want to do this? Like, is this something where ownership would say, I don't want to take on bad money? What do you mean bad money? I don't want to do that. Like, is that in the cards? Because that would be asinine. The Hawks just turned Jason Dickinson into a first-round pick because they took Andrew Mangiapane back. Mangiapane's going to put up 25 next to Bedard, and they might be able to trade Mangiapane for value at the next deadline. This is what the Canucks should be doing, not thinking about it or trying to convince the owner to do it. Like, do we know where we stand on this in Vancouver?
Yeah. I mean, from what I know, I think that ownership is on board fully, right? And I think when you talk about it, it's a distressed asset, right? Is it someone that is either not good at playing or that has too much term, or someone that isn't even playing right now and that this contracted team just wants to get rid of? Whether you look at guys that are on LTIR or things like that, or wherever the salary is that something that the Vancouver Canucks are willing to do? And I think that they're fully on board with that. And I think that those are conversations that are definitely happening over there.
Broadly speaking, to shift around the league a little bit, it's been a recent trend. I don't know if we've ever seen this before, where a number of deals have been getting leaked before the players' approval. And these are guys that have full no trade or no move clauses. We saw it with Parayko to Buffalo. He didn't wait to go there. We saw it with the Uyghur trade. I mean, hell, we saw it here in Vancouver with Myers to Detroit. Are you surprised by this trend? And clearly it seems to be almost a pressure tactic from teams to, hey, make this public and put pressure on the player to waive. Where do you think we go from here? Because I can't imagine that the players involved or even the NHLPA is pleased with how all this stuff has been going down.
No. But again, we can't sit here and have this show unless stuff comes out. We can't be sitting here preparing to do a deadline show unless we talk about speculation and talk about things, and there aren't people in our chats paying, their good money to support the BC Mental Health Foundation that want to be involved talking about things if things don't come out, if things aren't leaked. Yeah, optically it probably doesn't look good from the Blues point of view, or whoever it was out from, but what are you going to do?
To be clear, I'm not blaming by any means the insiders. You find out about it.
Yeah,
like
100%.
That's information. I'm more like on the team side, especially when it's the way these tweets have been framed, where it's like deal is done. It's almost like the last box that needs to be checked is, the player has to agree with it. But then when like that's the most important part. These haven't been vague leaks of, the Sabres are kicking tires on Colton Parayko, because that's still like stuff that people could talk about. That's vague enough. But this is deal is done. All the player has to do is sign off. It's a different thing, it feels like.
I think that before it gets out or before it gets leaked, like Colton Parayko knows about it. Like what really knows about this before. Like we heard about Tyler Myers on the Wednesday. Tyler Myers knew about that for about 3 days before anybody did, before it got out anywhere. That there was interest, there was an offer from the Detroit Red Wings, and it was up to Tyler Myers to make his decision. So the player obviously knows. At that point, it's taken a couple days. I mean, do you blame the team for doing it? They're going to want a decision too. One way or the other, the team's going to want to know something. So if they're going to put something out, okay. I mean, at some point, the player's going to make a decision. And at the end of the day, there's no pressure on the player. I don't think that there is. Yeah, everyone in St. Louis might be pissed that Parayko didn't go, or there are a lot of people there, but that's on him. The Blues negotiated that in his contract. The player, the agent, the GM, the president, the ownership group negotiated the full no move in his contract for a player to go and be able to do that. Same with a thing like here with Elias Pettersson. Same with a guy like Brock Besser. Those are in the contract that's negotiated by both the team, the agent, and the player. And if it comes out, that's totally fine. It's at the end of the day, it's still on the player to decide if they want to exercise that right. And obviously for Parayko, he didn't want to go to Buffalo, didn't see a fit. That doesn't mean that he doesn't want to move. It obviously shows that the St. Louis Blues are trying to do something different with you and clearly don't want you. So there's got to be somewhere where you want to go. And even in Tyler Myers' case, so the Detroit thing came out. Okay, sure. Detroit's got an offer. I want to go to Dallas. That is my preferred destination. Can we please make this work? Yes, we did. It's going to end up happening. The player in that instance with the no move clause is going to get what they want 10 times out of 10 because they have all the control. And you know who gave them all the control? The owner, the GM, the team, and that's all negotiated. That's what was negotiated in the contract. So look, the teams are going to do what the teams do. I don't think it's a bad thing. I agree that there might be a little bit of a tactic of it, but these guys are big boys. They are grown men that have this in their contract. They have a lot of stuff they need to think about when families get involved, when your livelihoods are involved, and all of that. Like look at Mackenzie Weegar. Yeah, he could have waived. What if he only had like 1 or 2 years left on his deal? This guy's got to think of a massive move to go to Utah now for the next 5 years of his career. Right. So obviously you see him take a couple days to make that deal. And, the Flames ended up making work and good for the Flames. And obviously, Weegar goes to a team that's going to have a pretty good blue line for the next decade.
Do you think moving forward that teams are going to be more cautious about handing out these? You don't think so? Because the way I was kind of looking at it is I think it's become like before, no trade clause, no move clauses were only handed out to cream of the crop players. Like you're a top line guy or second line center, you're a clear high end top 4 defenseman. But now you look at like Drew O'Connor's got partial no trade. A guy like Teddy Blueger has a 12-team no trade list, right? These are depth guys that have some level of trade protection. I mean, Connor Garland has a full no movement clause kicking in on July 1st. And part of it is a lot of times it's a concession, right? Where I think, especially in the flat cap era, teams were pressed up against the cap. So, all right, it's maybe we pay you a little bit less, maybe $500K less per year, or whatever dollar figure you would denote to that. And then in exchange for lower AAV, the player is going to want full trade protection or full no move. But now as the cap goes up, if you're a team and you want to maintain trade flexibility, which I think is clearly very important, then do you think teams will go back to paying a little bit higher on the AAV and being a little bit stricter in terms of actually handing these no trade and no move clauses, not to the top guys, but to middle the lineup players.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see you. I mean, do I think that Andrew Mangiapane deserves a no move? No. Or a partial no trade? Do I think a guy like Drew O'Connor deserves a partial no trade list? No. I think that it depends on the player and the situation. But you're right, though. It fully comes down to money. If you want to pay the player less money and have him be on less term, 100% you're going to have to, there's going to be a negotiation. And the negotiation for the agent, the player is always going to be, I want a no move. I want some security here in this situation. And I still think that we're going to see that going down the road. And obviously, when you look at the big deals, there's definitely going to be that in the instance. But yeah, I think that when it comes down to lowering the AAV, lowering the term, the player is going to have some power and some say. And that always comes down to the no trade clause. Bonuses now, we're starting to see a little bit. You saw with the Kiefer Sherwood deal, right? He's getting a lot of his money up front in bonuses. We're starting to see that. Austin Matthews has done that as well with a couple of his deals. But I think the no trade clause is important. I think for players, if the team is willing to give it to them, then by all means, they're going to take it every day of the week.
All right, Irf, thanks for doing this. Harvey, you have anything else? I'm good.
No, I'm good. That was awesome.
Irf,
peace and love, boys.
Appreciate it, man. We'll chat with you soon. People can find you in just an hour and 20 minutes. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
There he is, Irfaan Gaffar. Check him out with Dave Pagnotta on the DFO Rundown Insider Edition. Coming out in, like I said, hour and 18 minutes. All right, Jacob, you know what time it is. Take it away.
I did try to get my camera set up here in the studio, but we had the camera on Earth, and I was playing around with it, which is why the music went twice, but no camera for me today. Sorry, guys. I know that's what you want. Also, chat's still bumping, so I won't be in the chat here for a while. So to those of you who I've been communicating with, you'll have to hold off, unfortunately. Anyways, it's time for another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. Now, I am so confident you guys are going to win this week. I've only uploaded the win graphic in my back end here. I don't have a graphic for you guys losing. Our difficulty this week is the Nashville Predators. And I'm not talking about the Predators when they went on like that run for a few weeks. I'm talking about like the early season Nashville Predators. I'm confident. For those of you who don't know, Harmon will go first. He's going to have 25 seconds on the clock. His time will begin when I finish reading the first question. Harm, if you can't think of an answer, say pass. We will come back to it at the end. Ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Quads, have you disconnected yet?
1 sec. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I'm good.
Why ask? All right. Quads is disconnected. Harm, your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. With the power of hindsight, if you could go back and prevent any single trade the Canucks have made since 2020, which one would you pick?
OEL.
How many trades will the Canucks make before the deadline this week?
4.
Name a Canuck you would be surprised to see traded before the deadline.
Steve William.
Which Eastern Conference team has had the most disappointing season?
Rangers.
Name a penalty that needs to be changed or standardized.
Goalie interference.
Good work with time to spare. And for those in the chat, we talked about it earlier this week, the difficulty. I ended up dropping one of the tougher questions and keeping in one of the really easy questions because I wanted to give these guys a chance. So, yeah, you can flag Quads down. I'll tally up your score.
How'd it go?
Solid. I think we should win this week. I hope.
Okay.
I will say I do have to look up one of your answers, which is never a good sign, but it's only one that I had to look up. And I know you got at least one number one. You got 2 number ones. And Harm, you got I lost my formatting here on the on my spreadsheet, so I have to re-put in your sum. I need you guys to like cover for me. Give me 10 seconds.
Okay. One of the questions
I'm fighting with someone in the chat. I'm fighting with someone
Really?
in the chat about how rich Aquilini is. I don't know how I got into this
Why?
conversation.
How?
I don't know how. I'm done with it though, because like I said in the chat, I said I'm done with this combo because I have to go put up 20 points in Feud.
So Harm got 114 points, Quads. That means you need 86.
Okay, I'm not feeling good. Just for the record.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you heard before you came back in, Quad. So as you know, I put 6 questions in the survey, and I usually drop one. I drop one if it's like really difficult.
Okay.
It's like, you know, the number 1 and 2 answers only have like 10 points. Or if it's really easy, like the number 1 and 2 answers combined are worth like 80 points. I drop them because it ruins the game. I ended up dropping a really good, like competitive question and left in an easy one to give you guys a better opportunity. So, I will say Harmon got you more than halfway there, and there's still some number 1s available for you.
Okay, cool.
You're going to have 30 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end if we have time. If you give one of Harmon's answers, you will hear the buzzer, and I will ask you to try again. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, your time will begin when I finish reading this first question. With the power of hindsight, if you could go back in time and prevent any single trade that the Canucks have made since 2020, which would you pick?
Horvat.
How many trades will the Canucks make this week before the deadline?
4.
Try again.
3.
Name a Canuck you would be surprised to see traded before the deadline.
Elias Pettersson.
Which Eastern Conference team has had the most disappointing season?
Pass.
Name a penalty that needs to be changed or standardized.
Pass.
Name an Eastern Conference team with a disappointing
Rangers.
season. Try again.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
Damn.
you're out of time.
I know that. Yeah, that's
Oh,
tough.
no.
So I got 3 of 5 questions answered. Those questions are way too long.
Not really. You said you passed twice.
Yeah, because I was trying to get back to the Rangers because I thought of the Rangers like, oh, that's it. That's the answer.
Yeah, and it's also the answer that Harmon gave. All right, let's see what happens.
Oh no!
I'd like
Right.
to lock in.
As
Panthers.
The good news
soon
is,
as
Quads.
as soon as Jacob said, I only made the win graphic, I was like, oh no.
So
Yeah.
I have some interesting news here. An interesting development. You only got 3 answers, Quads, but all 3 answers you gave were number 1 answers.
I thought they were good
Ooh.
answers.
All right, let's work backwards to make this more interesting.
Sure.
So a penalty that needs to be changed or standardized. Harm said goalie interference. That was the number 1 answer. Number 2 answer was embellishment. Number 3 answer was high sticking, like with double minors when you bleed. That's what I voted for, by the way. Get rid of that. I think it's so dumb that something superficial like bleeding doubles your penalty. But anyways, so no answer there for Quads. Eastern Conference team with the most disappointing season, the Rangers with the number 1 answer.
And then I said Panthers.
No,
You did not say Panthers, and even if you
I
did,
said
that
it
would have
late.
only been the number 4 answer.
Number
Quads.
4. Wow. Who's
Number
2 and
4.
3?
You want to take a guess at number 2 now that you can think about
Leafs?
it? The Leafs are number 2.
More. Okay.
Number 3 answer is the New Jersey Devils, by the way.
Okay.
All right, and now we're into the answers you gave. You need 86 points from these 3 answers.
Here we go.
Name a Canuck you would be surprised to see traded before the deadline. Harm, you said Zeev Buyam, only 2 points there. Although it's true.
That
I'd be
question tripped
very
me up a
surprising.
little bit because I was like, my mind instantly went to who's not getting traded, who's untouchable. But then I guess
get
the
it.
sweet
Okay.
spot would have been like somebody that could maybe get traded, but probably isn't.
I'm
Which is
hopeful
exactly
Elias
what-
Pettersson's worth a
Which is
watch
exactly
here.
what Quad said, and that's why Elias Pettersson was the number 1 answer. 27 points for
Oh,
Pete.
that's it. We need more. We're not going to win this. Damn.
Philip Hronek was the number 2 answer. Besser tied for number 3 with Demko. Demko, I don't know why anyone would have said that. He's on LTIR. He's not getting traded during the season on LTIR.
27
Like
ain't
that-
enough.
Yeah.
27 is not going to be enough.
Well, that's what you think, Quaz. But remember when I mentioned before how, I left in a couple questions that had some big number 1s and number
Yeah.
2s.
Not enough.
Let's
It's
see.
okay.
You need
Get that
59
Lost
points.
graphic ready.
How many trades will the Canucks make this week? You guys both said 4. Quads, you dropped down to 3. It's a very good thing. If you went up to 5, you would have only gotten 5 points, Quads. Instead, You got the number one answer with 35 points.
Okay, we're back in
Okay.
this. This is interesting.
You need 24 points on the last question.
And
With
I
the
got the number
power
one
of
answer.
hindsight, if you could go back and prevent any single trade since 2020, which would you pick? Harm gave what I thought would be the number one answer in OEL. He
Oh,
said the OEL trade. Quad, you said
But
the
Horvat was
Horvat
number one.
trade, which is the number one answer. Is it worth 24 points?
it is.
Well,
Hit the
I will
graphic.
tell you. I'll tell you the number 3 answer was the Marcus Pettersson trade.
Yeah.
The number 4 answer was the Lindholm Kuzmenko trade. Number 5 answer was the JT Miller trade.
Mm-hmm.
The Bo Horvat trade was the number 1 answer, worth 35 points.
Oh!
Quads clutched
My
it with
God.
only 3 ansers.
3 answers, and I clutched up. Oh my!
I mean, you still
Everybody-
only got 97 points, so Harm did most of the lifting, but you guys got the win.
3 number ones. That's all
3
that
number
matters.
ones. Yeah, you can't even coach that.
This is
Unbelievable.
scraping out a 2-1 shootout victory against the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, except I scored all the goals. The chat was having fun at my expense, and now they all have to eat crow. This was we just witnessed history, said Rajcraft. Condone said fumble the bag, quads. Spatzilli said the results are already locked in. I am Don B said Fumbrelli. That's a new one. Fumbrelli at his best. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let's go. What a win. What a win. Clutch. That's right. Thank you. Reg in the chat called me clutch. Saltaire Brew, quads is built differently. You can't teach that. All instinct. That's true. That's absolutely right. I don't think we'll ever lose again. New Family Feud survey will be out on Monday, I'm assuming. Post deadline, Jacob?
Yeah, we'll do it post deadline.
Okay.
Just too much going on tomorrow to worry about putting a survey out.
Yeah. What a win. What a win. All right. Mike in the Valley's on delay. So he just said peak Fumbarelli. He's about to catch up. He's about to catch up and see that I won. All right, let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of our friends over at Greta. Great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more with the arcade, bar, and street food menu. Make Greta your spot to watch the next game. I'm getting texts from friends that are kind of paying attention to the Canucks and the trade deadline, and they're now asking me, are the Canucks going to screw up? And they're not using the word screw. Screw up this trade deadline, Harm. I ask you now. We've seen the Myers trade. We've seen the Jet Wu trade, by the way. So I think my total of 4 is going to happen. They only need to make 2 more trades for my total to hit.
Hey,
right?
let's remember, I took the over first, but yeah.
Good point. Fair point, my friend. But are the Canucks going to screw up this trade deadline? We now know that they've traded Myers. What do they what to you now constitutes a screwed up trade deadline? Is it we couldn't move Evander Kane? Because I mentioned it during the interview with Irf. They didn't terminate that contract, so he's either here after the deadline or they traded him. There's no, oh yeah, see you later, Evander. Go sign with the playoff team. Be free. It's, hey, we're able to trade you and we're retaining on your contract, or you're a Canuck down the stretch. And we saw what the lineup looked like without Evander Kane last night. We talk about effort. I don't think you want Evander Kane here past the deadline. I think this has been a massive failure from top to bottom. So where do you stand on it? Like, what constitutes a bad trade deadline for the Canucks? Not moving their UFAs? Where do you come in on this?
So there are a few ways they could fail, right? One would be can't get anything for Evander Kane. The other would be we're extending Teddy Blueger instead of trading him for whatever we can get. And especially on the Blueger front, to me, when I look at the upcoming free agent market, yeah, there aren't going to be top flight centers available. There aren't going to be like number 1, number 2 centers on the market. But if we're talking about 4th line caliber centers, which ultimately that's what Teddy Blueger is, you're going to be able to find names like that in free agency, right? Eric Holla's on the market, Adam Henrique, Kevin Stenlund. You can find 4th line centers. And I don't think Teddy Blueger's present value and, we can't afford to lose Teddy Blueger. We need him around to mentor the young guys and give us steady center minutes is enough to justify extending him. So that would be an important one. And then if they don't move any of their forwards with term left. So to me, if if they trade Blueger for what they can get, and if they move one of the forwards to term, let's say Garland, and then it's okay, we can't move Evander Kane, I think you can live with that, right? Of course, you would like all three things to happen, but if it's you still got, let's say, a 3rd round pick for Blueger, you got a 2nd round pick plus something else, like a B grade prospect in a deal for Connor Garland. Maybe you got like a 7th for David Kampf, and then it's just Evander Kane. We couldn't do anything about it. Nobody wanted him, even though we were willing to retain salary. I think that's acceptable. On the other hand, if it's you have multiple of the failed scenarios of not monetizing Blueger, not moving a forward with term, and on top of that, we couldn't get anything for Evander Kane, like that would be a catastrophic trade deadline. So it's just about how many of those scenarios you can avoid, and we'll ultimately see. I mean, in the case of Blueger and Kane, I expected those to be last minute, hour before the deadline type trades anyway. So I'm not gonna panic or get mad about that yet, right? There's still like 20 hours before the deadline is over. But yeah, I mean, historically, this organization hasn't done well at the deadline. They've failed at deadlines, and certainly management last year screwed up the trade deadline. So I wouldn't say my confidence is necessarily high, but I'm also not going to sit here right now and get angry and get mad at them before the deadline's even over.
Also, there's people in the chat being like, who cares? Like James in the chat said, who cares if they move Kane for a 6th? A 6th is useless. Won't ever play an NHL game. It's first of all, it's currency, but also, you know who else is useless? Evander Kane. He's taking up a spot on this team. Atu Ratu can't get into the lineup for the life of him.
If Evander Kane is still a Vancouver Canuck on the other end of this deadline, I'm sorry, but what's the point of having him in the lineup? While why not at that point throw him in the press box? He should be
lowering the compete level too, right? Like lowering the compete level, because we talked about it, like the old, well, he's got to try to stay healthy. He's an older guy. Obviously, he's got to be careful. We understand that. Got to preserve himself for playoff hockey. Tom Willander last night, you heard him say it. It's nice when everybody's trying. Like, I don't know how you can look at that and say, oh yeah, no, it'd be great to have Evander Kane after the deadline. That'd be awesome. No, miss me with that. So everything you said, I made a list, and we're going to be able to go over it tomorrow. It's on the whiteboard now. Anything you want to add? Anything you want to take away? I think that's pretty good.
No, I think I like it. I like it. I like that you got it on the board there.
Can you read my handwriting?
I can. Actually, cleaner than I expected.
Thank you.
Well done.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I didn't expect your handwriting to be art exactly. And neither is mine, to be clear. It's better handwriting than I've got.
I expected that. Okay. All right. I don't think there's anything else, except Jacob did want to chime in on our pleasant conversation with the listener about how much money NHL teams make.
I will just say, like, every NHL team is profitable these days.
By a lot.
I looked it up. I think it was the CNBC list that came out. And the team with the lowest revenue in the NHL is the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they bring in $164 million annually.
The whole point this is the whole point of the salary cap.
Yeah.
This is the whole point of the salary cap. And if you want to actually talk about the business of owning a pro sports team, like, go look up Major League Baseball owners, because that's where you get real differences of, like, why can the Dodgers do this, and why are, even though kind of what this person's saying about, well, you're just assuming everybody's rich. It's like, okay, Dodgers ownership is a hell of a lot more wealthy than, I don't know, Rockies ownership, or even, I hate to use the
Cleveland Guardians ownership.
Yeah, but again, especially when you come in with groups of owners and then it's just one guy, even though they're wealthy guys, but still, you understand where I'm getting at. That's not the reality of the economics of the NHL. Like, that's why they brought in a salary cap, so that there's no 90s Detroit Red Wings anymore, right? I mean, that's an oversimplification of why there's a salary cap, but that basically means that every team is going to be able to make all that money, not to mention all the revenue sharing and the TV deals as well. Like, revenue is what we're talking about here. Anyways, let's move on. Anything else that
We've
you
got
had to get to?
Tankathon to do.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
do
let's
it.
watch
I
them
know.
finish third
I know
again.
Quads was ready to like squeak through right onto Bet365. I wasn't gonna let that happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Good reminder, Jacob.
Final week of Tankathon. Canucks have still only, or sorry, not final. I thought okay. I'm going to cut this out of the audio pod because I completely screwed that up. Second last Tankathon of the week. Vancouver's only won once now this is our 9th go at it. So the odds of number 1 overall are 25%, which means we should expect them to win at least once per week. Today or tomorrow, let's see if it happens.
Time to see Calgary win number 1 again.
Here's the lottery sim, and Chicago again, and Winnipeg moving up to number 2.
There they go down to number 3 again.
And the Canucks down to number 3.
How many times does that happen now?
A lot. I don't have the list in front of me because I'm in studio today, but yeah, that's Chicago's won more than Vancouver, and they have an 8.5% chance. Canucks are at 25.1. So there you go.
Bedard with McKenna would be unfair. Like poor Canucks fans, if they have to see Bedard with McKenna, and then you got San Jose in your division with Celebrini and Misa down the middle, and then next year they still won't have even one exciting, like legit top 6 forward with star potential. Anyway.
Not to mention Mangiapane. Mangiapane is gonna really put up some numbers. Speaking of baseball, the Mariners are losing 26-5 right now.
Isn't spring training great?
Yeah.
By the way, Quads, I think I texted this to you. The spring breakout rosters were announced. Trey Savage pitched in the World Series. He pitched like in elimination games in the World Series, and they have him going to the spring breakout, which is so funny. For those of you who don't know, spring breakout is kind of like teams towards the end of spring training compile like all their top prospects, and you play like a little mini like friend or exhibition tournament against other teams, just top prospects, so no MLB players in there, with the exception of guys like Trey Savage, who still count as rookies even though they pitched in the World Series. So yeah, fun to look forward to that. That comes after the World Baseball Classic though. So once all the MLB players go back to their teams.
All right. Bet365. Let's do it. Home dogs. You know I'm looking for it. Ooh, I see one. Remember how bad the Devils played after the Hughes trade to Minnesota?
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's going to be a little similar in Buffalo tonight. The Buffalo Sabres are in Pittsburgh without Colton Parayko, mind you, to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are at home. The Penguins are minus 105 favorites against the Sabres. Or no, underdogs, underdogs, my bad. Minus 105 underdogs at home against the favorited Sabres at minus 115 odds. You can get Penguins money line at minus 105 over at Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, folks, just remind everybody, tomorrow, at Canucks Army, we'll have our live blog out early. We'll have wall-to-wall coverage all day long. And then we'll be back here on Canucks Convo at our normal time, 2 o'clock Pacific, live on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And then, of course, available wherever you get your podcast shortly after that. Anything else, Harm? Oh, I feel like we didn't really talk about Parayko. It came out today that Parayko... Oh, no, you guys talked about it when I was arguing with someone. I heard his name. Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah. All right, cool. Great work, everyone. Let's close it out there. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Gujalli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.